Morning, traders. Welcome to the pre-market analysis that we open to the public every single Wednesday via YouTube. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is Spartan speaking, by the way. If you guys give a little bit of a breakdown of what's going to happen this morning. So once I'm done speaking here, Beth's going to come on, give you a breakdown of the macro environment, go through any of the news events that happened over the course of this evening or this morning that we should be aware of, as well as what's going to be happening today. Also going through any of the bigger picture items, commodities, etc., that makes sense to be taking a look at. Once that's done, I'm going to come back on. We're going to be going through the individual names that are gapping up, gapping down that we're looking at from a technical standpoint today, as well as we'll look at the news associated with those gap up, gap down. So go through the SPY, the FANG, and the VIX, Qs, and IWM as well. After that's done, Selpage will pop on. He'll be going through any of the analyst calls he's looking at for today, macro environment from his perspective, as well as any of the individual names that he wants to keep an eye on into the open. Then we'll do a quick little recap of those individual names that I talked about, as well as the SPY and the FANG, and then we'll be ready for the open. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, pass it over to Beth, and I will talk to you guys shortly. Beth, you ready? It's all yours.
So much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome to those of you joining us on our live YouTube stream. This is what we do every morning, pre-market here at SpartanTrading.com. It's really a lot of fun. Get to opine about stuff, go over data, see what's going on, yada, yada, yada. Macro, technicals, you name it, we got it. Okay, so overnight, what happened? China industrial productions year to date, year over year, June, profits. Sorry, 1% versus 2%. Industrial profits year over year, 0.8, but yeah, whatever. Just say whatever. Coincident. Look, everything is telling us that she better get his you-know-what in gear, because I continue to tell you the people are miserable. You have high unemployment in a certain section. You've got a lot of stuff going on there. If you are not going to pay attention to this, there's going to be some very large fireworks happening there. You cannot have 18 to 25-year-olds, such a high unemployment level. Okay, people are not happy. The zero COVID thing is ridiculous, just ridiculous, okay? Consumer confidence in Germany, minus 30.6, loans to household rising, loans to companies rising, M3 money supply rising, the Bund auction, this is kind of interesting, right? 0.94 versus 1.22. Mortgage back rates 5.74 coming down. We got global goods coming out at 8:30, retail inventories, yada, yada, yada. Okay, so we'll go over this with the Atlanta Fed with their GDP forecast. The data from today, okay, the final is what they're going to be using. Okay. Okay, pending home sales, yada, 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 yada. Well, let's be honest, EIA. Right. I cannot reiterate enough how big a deal this Dallas Fed service is. Okay, I cannot reiterate enough. Yeah, interest rate decisions, 2:30, conference call. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I keep showing you, I can't recall the last time it wasn't like 99%. So there's 75% say 75 basis points, 25% say one whole point. I don't know, interesting, right? See, we shall see. Okay, let's get to our fun whisper earnings report. Okay, so this has been fascinating, right? Guidance has been below normal. Earnings per share, yada, yada, yada. The revenue surprises, though, has been above. 205 positive, 63 negative, right? And then earnings per share surprises, you see, et cetera, et cetera. So this is it, Thursday, tomorrow, right? This is the top dog right here tomorrow in terms of earnings. So there's an interesting opine here that they're discussing going back to Munswijk. For those of you who don't know, anyways, he was one who coined the phrase, "Don't fight the Fed." Okay, this has been around for 52 years, all right? So it's not a new construct, right? The successful lived by ever since coming into 2020, there were Omicron cases, yada, yada. Below we provide a chart of the Fed's balance sheet relative to the S&P 500. Now, what they're saying here basically is that the market has gotten ahead of itself. That's what they're saying. So quantitative tightening begins, announced, right? It's kind of interesting. So this basically is a SOMA, the open market account, right? This is the S&P. Okay, look at the divergence here. Look where it is. Now, granted, I continue to adamantly state that as long as interest rates are this low, it's still quantitative easing. When you have the Fed funds this low, which they should be at least 5.5%, it's quantitative easing, okay? And they are really not doing what you think they're doing with their balance sheet, okay? So the market has front run it, on the announcement. And the question here is, maybe, look, you can tell by the price movements in the bond market, these guys were quote unquote the smartest guys in the room are struggling. There's a lot of people struggling, okay, the smartest guys, right? A lot of people struggling. See how it plays out. Okay, this aft, what do we got? Metaphor, Qualcomm, Telegraph, what was it nice? See a little bit of a rally off of Alphabet, Microsoft, well, Microsoft, but yeah. Anyways, so it just tells us, right, that if you give this market hope, right? I mean, hope, something, you can get a nice little bounce, right? Okay. All right, what do we got this morning? Okay, Shopify. $1 billion write-off on their e-commerce investment. Why didn't they pre-announce this? So basically, if you take off that $1 billion write-off, it's actually not as bad as it would appear, right? So it would have only been a loss of, 300 million versus $1 billion. Anyways, a lot of positive stuff today. Kraft, Heinz, KHC, Hilton, HLT. A lot of, like I said, a lot of positive stuff going on. Waste management, I like it. Some ADP, some peeps are starting to guide higher. Nice. And we got those who are guiding lower. Like, but overall things are kind of like not bad. Right? Just saying. All right, what do we got? Germany and Seoul, Korea. This is fascinating with what's going on with China. It has shifted from a positive to a negative. So now this is merchandise. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. Imports slump. This is a big deal, right? What they're importing, or they're not importing. Everything we see shows what's going on in the real world in China. They got some serious problems economically. They've got some serious problems in terms of the masses. Okay, and I don't know if Xi has the temperament at this point in time to get things done. The best thing for China would be Xi to be removed, but I don't know. Good luck with that, right? Like I say, it was like, it's kind of like with Putin, right? All right, here you go. This is it. No family cells. Yeah, okay. This is the breadth of the impact from the poor all the way up to the upper middle class, okay, is stunning, okay? So this is consumer confidence with those making over 125,000. It's stunning. It is stunning. The wealth destruction globally is stunning. I cannot reiterate that enough. And this is what it looks like. We may not formally, quote unquote, get into a recession, but everything tells us that what we're seeing right now, okay, in terms of wealth destruction, is for some people cataclysmic. If you're retired, okay, living on a fixed income, what the hell are you going to do? That's why the idea that destroying inflation is more important than if you create a recession. That's why there's a great article about that. I'll show you in the Wall Street Journal, Switzerland. I mean, it's just stunning. Right, so here's what Citrini's been talking about. This is actually May's data, okay? It just came out, but it should not be a surprise to anybody, right? If this came out. Carolyn, let's say it could be, all right, so this is a daily, so this is timing and price. There's a lot of shit going on in August, you can see that, okay? The next real cycle we have right now, and it becomes, these cycles become less and less impactful and basically sloppy choppy, I guess is the Reader's Digest version of this one, right? But the next cycle that we have coming in is coming in on the 27th, the 29th. So this could be a cycle high and this could be a cycle low. Anyways, this could be a cycle low and this could be a cycle high. I mean, you just don't know. That's the problem with a lot of this stuff, guys. Gals funds, a lot of data, kind of hard to. Meta, first ever revenue drop. IMF lowered once again global forecast. I don't even know how they get to 2.9%. All right, this is what it looks like, but I think it's really I think it's horrific from a moral and ethical point of view. That basically all we're willing to do is let them destroy a nation, a country, physically. Okay, and yet here we are giving them air defense, whatever. I mean, this is horrible. All right, so this is where we get also the idea, like with Costco et al. And stuff like that. Walmart did the right thing. This is how you clear your decks, clean everything out in terms of your inventory and start afresh. This is smart management in this type of economic environment. The stock will get punished, I know that, but it will get bought up. So instead of getting instead of getting a 15, 20% haircut, you're getting a 5 to 10% haircut. That is smart management. That's what it looks like. Laying off people is smart management. That's what it looks like. Okay? The time of economic times we're in, this is what it looks like. Get used to it. People aren't going to be going on a hiring spree anytime soon. Lean and mean. We'll see what happens. Look, I guess the question is anybody willing to give up their Coke versus an off-brand? But don't forget, a lot of these off-brands that you find in some of these, like Costco et al., they're name brands. I mean, like the diapers, I think, are either Huggies or something like that. The name brand, but they just slapped a label on it. And there's a lot of that, right? I don't know. I'm just saying. All right, on airfares under 300. Thank God, I got this is absolutely positively stunningly ridiculous. Some of the costs. All right, so let's talk. I am not talking about climate. I'm talking about reality, facts. California, worst drought on record. Guess what? That impacts the crops, right? So once again, from an agricultural situation, low supply, same demand, this is economics, higher prices, okay? What do we got here? Drought to flood. Guess what? Floods destroy crops. Once again, low supply, same demand, higher prices. This is what it looks like. This has nothing to do, well, it is climate, but you know what I mean. I'm not talking about climate change. I'm not talking about any of that stuff. I'm talking about commodity facts, okay? Anything that disrupts the supply chain, i.e. weather, equals higher commodity prices. That's simple. Same. All right. read this article. It's a great article on Seeking Alpha. Basically, demand decimation out of once again, this is a huge, huge, huge region in terms of production. Look at this. Okay, look at this. This is crazy. Business activity, company outlook, everything. Have to talk about Google sales growth slows, yada yada. Microsoft upbeat. Cuts, yeah. Says recession shouldn't stop Eurozone. You got that right. You gotta take care of inflation. Chi on Thursday. Look, a lot. Whatever. Spain is raising its inflation forecast for 2022 and 2023. Okay, God bless. Australia inflation sped to 21-year high. Cost of living and worries about the future. You got it. It's all over the world. It's not just us. Okay, so please, if you're able to watch this, watch it. It shows you why inflation is so key. It's the lever when it comes to consumer confidence. If the consumer doesn't have disposable income to spend on other things, right? What the, right? I'm just saying. What do we got here? Hot stocks, Microsoft and Google rise. Yes, also gains, yada, yada, yada. Rio Tinto slashes dividend. That's a big deal, guys. Okay. So that's why it's down today. It's great for traders, not so much for investors. Fed day. Yeah, I know. Poised for another 75, whatever. So what's gonna, look, Spartan's brilliant. He's gonna basically guide us through this alienward right now. How pessimistic Americans could worry the economy into a recession. That's about right. That's about right. If you're not going to spend, guess what? Mortgage demand declines. It's still a buy despite uncertain macro ahead, and analysts say. BlackRock says the Fed may hike 3 more times. Whatever. You don't know. Okay, see, this is what I'm talking about, guys, gals, friends. I can't recall the last Fed where there was a quarter on indecisive morning at higher. So I don't know what that means, but I'm just showing you. Okay, what do we got this week? This week, right? So 23 versus 15, 12 versus 2.5, 12. This is Microsoft versus 7. Well, you get the gist, right? 8.3 versus. Well, this isn't bad. This is 17. Nvidia. What? It's just there's no oomph to this market right now. Sustainable oomph, right? Bobalicious, UPS, and Spotify. Nothing here. I mean, like I say, they should pull this down. It's fun to say. What's being hyped pre-market? Microsoft, T-Mobile, and Taiwan Semi. All right, let's take a look at it. Multiple inside. KDP, guys, this Krug Dr. Pepper, they're gobbling up hand over fist. God bless. TALS, T-A-L-S, Talaris Therapeutics. But the top dog right there yesterday was KDP. Okay. GEG, these are single, not multiple. And you see here as well, these are penny stock buys. And then what's going on in terms of sales. Option, so it doesn't really matter. Option. Okay. All right. Once again, let's take a peek here. In the last week, 27 upgrades to 114 downgrades. You can see where I'm getting with this. Okay, the more and more pessimistic these analysts get. And you know what I think about analysts. I don't think highly of them. The same way I don't think highly of economists, except the ones that I like, right? Schlumberger, nice, 54.4%. Carvana, interesting. Raymond James, but no price change. Newmont Mining, a little bit of a bop. That's kind of fun, right? That's Canaccord. All right, so guess what? If you look in terms of 3, 4, and 5 stars, nothing. Even though Google from Rosenblatt and XPI from Needham. I don't know why this guy isn't showing on my thing, but he's not. And where we have no stars, new dude from Needham, and do that. And then you got some sell here, whatever. Let's take a peek. On market sentiment is moving on from deep pessimism. You got that right. Woo! So here's the optex starting to bounce here. 10-year Treasury futures. There we go. Yada, yada, yada. What does it mean? 10-year Treasury at the bond optimism index is above 59 for the first time. 200 days. Futures. Not as bullish, but this goes back to 1991. This goes back to 1994. Okay. So Bloomberg US bond and a bond bullish. Okay. That's what I told you. All right. There's nothing here to look at. If we hold up this rally, then we'll be rosy and red again, and then we'll, you know the drill on that one. The breath is resetting. Nothing there either. All right, let's talk. All right, so GDP forecast, the final one comes in. So this is out of Atlanta. Okay. And basically, you know the drill, right? A recession equals, two negative back-to-back consecutive GDP quarters, right? Right, so see how it plays out. This is the smooth recession probability. This is by a group here. Okay, this is what it looks like. And this is another group here in terms of what it looks like as well. All right. It's not, China. What rates have to go down in China. I mean, it's a reiteration. Things are really bad there. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to see that. German rates continue to come down 52% from their peak. The dollar continues to hold steady. We'll see what happens with the FOMC. China continues to slowly lower their rates. And here we go, yada, yada. Let's look at natty gas. Got to keep an eye on this because we're at a double top here. I actually think I bought a little bit this morning down here. Let's see what happens with it. AMLP, you can see here, watch the MLPs. They're looking better. OIH, it's looking better. So that's Schlumberger and Halliburton are the two top holdings there, right? There's XLE looking okay. Needs to reclaim this reversion to the mean though. Here's USO, UNG, breaking down here, guys. So if this does continue, right, then potentially we have a move down to here. And you got it. 50% outperformance of natty gas against crude. I'm just saying. I failure to break this weekly downtrend line. Gold crude, nothing there. So don't forget, gold tends to make meaningful lows and highs that are a meaningful FOMC. Okay. Let's look at the indices. What's going on here? Up, SMI, up, Nifty 50, everybody's up, China 850 are down. Overall, pretty bullish across the board here, right? DAX, trying, but still has to reclaim this extension. And this is the 50 EMA on the monthly. Okay, so right now we're kind of range bound. You can kind of see that, right? Range bound. All right, so here's DAX against China. You can see rallying, but it's reversion to the mean. Here's the FTSE I told you about the bounce off here. This is range bound too. I don't see it going anywhere. And here's the FTSE against the Dow. So looking to form a bottom. I don't know what this means, to be honest with you. I mean, I would not be upset to see if we could see a nice rally outside the US, but Feds is doing nothing, trying. All right, so this is the tech NASDAQ volatility, the VXN versus VIX, right? It needs to break. None of us can really get anywhere, right? And you can see here that it's pretty steady in terms. This is the VIX VXN. Right, let's talk about FANG. Still has not done what it needs to do. This is still a bear flag until we break these levels here. I mean, I can't say it any other way. This is a range. When you're in the upper quadrant, you sell, and when you're in the lower quadrant, you buy. So this is growth value, whatever. Right? All right, so let's take a look at the Qs here. This is the monthly. All right, so we got basically this is the bottom end of the Bollinger. Okay, it's holding right now. Let me put up the And you can see here that this right here is also the 50 EMA in the monthly. So see what happens here, you know, work to be done. There's always work to be done, but still bear flag until we break it. All right, so let's talk about Google. All right, so this is what Google looks like on a monthly. Nothing has changed, right? Still bear flagging, right? We have well-defined risk reward on the downside here. And basically we are making a kind of higher low, right? And then you can see here, this is why I look at these monthlies, because when you look at the monthlies and say, okay, yeah, but, right? All right, believe it or not, Meta has not taken out last month's low. If we take out last month's low, then basically 121.97, there's a long way to go here. I mean, on the downside. See, I mean, it's fascinating how the market has had no appetite for buying these. Now, my question is, in terms of the earnings, is asset managers, whatever, using these rallies to sell into? Okay, or they're going to do a little bit of FOMO chase. I don't know. We'll see. Netflix, there you go, monthly. You know. All right, so this was a measured move on the downside, and believe it or not, Netflix hit the price target on the measured move. I know it's hard to imagine, but that was that. Let's see what happens here. I mean, I guess clearly we start looking at this angle, right? So if indeed Netflix is going to bounce, the shallowest the bounce would be the 23.6% fib, which is also the 100 EMA on monthly. Google, Apple. Let's take a peek here. So what I'm looking at is Google right now a little bit against the board here. So you can see Google's just been a real, you know what. But it's still within a range, believe it or not. Okay, so if we look at it from this perspective, right, from the COVID low, we still have a little way to go before we can start looking for a bounce, meaningful bounce in Google. Now that may happen with Amazon, with their earnings, Apple, I don't know. Here's Amazon and Google. So Google's been really, really, really strong. And we've talked about Amazon leadership, right? That we want to see some leadership coming out of Amazon. I don't know if that's going to happen, but you can see here, just by this, okay, flagging. This is the fascinating part, is that the Google was unable to break. So I wouldn't be surprised once again to see Amazon take leadership against Google. Google, Meta. You can see that Google obviously been, you know, stronger, but, you know, I don't know. I mean, if you're looking at it, right, I mean, it's flagging. It's still holding this inside candle from last month. So I guess Google can rally against Meta, right? Google against the Qs. So obviously Google has been losing ground, but it's a reversion to the mean setup, friends. As long as this reversion to the mean holds, then we can't see Google start to outperform. So it's really, the levers are fascinating right now in terms of what's going to happen with this market, right? Let's take a look at Google and XLC, right? So don't forget that Google is a large portion, Google and Meta a large portion of XLC, okay? 20%, right? So between the two, it's 40%. So this is really interesting how Google's been weakening within XLC. So other components of XLC are doing better. Really fascinating. But we are at a pivot point right here. So I don't know what happens here, but if we do hold, then we should rally. So Google can have a potential rally. Okay, that's what that would tell us right here, up to here, this bottom end. The risk reward is starting to get skewed in favor of Google, right? Here's Google against XLY. After we do all these charts, I forgot about the split. So XLY is Tesla and Amazon, right? And you can see here, reversion to the mean setup, and it's actually holding this uptrend line. So, it's interesting, potentially, Google is set up, as long as we hold here, it's a well-defined risk reward, it is bouncing. Google is potentially set up to have a meaningful bounce. Look, the only way Google's going to rally against the spreads in these spreads is if Google rally. I mean,
All right, Beth, ready to pop on here.
okay.
All right, guys, what's up? Morning. Let's pop up the screen share here. There we go. So let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. A couple different things. If you guys are new to chat and have already done so, make sure to click the Discord link that's emailed to you. Once you guys do pop in a Discord, it's going to look something like this. First area you go to when you come in, disclaimer section, then that new to chat information section, scroll to the top and read from the top down. All right. We'll go through that stuff later on when we do close down the YouTube stream. Pre-market tickers on watch. What do we got going on today, guys? A couple different things. Tesla now, Microsoft, SHW, Google, and Teva. Tesla gapping up in sympathy with the market now. Earnings beat EPS and revs year-over-year growth 26.6%. Microsoft earnings miss EPS and revs year-over-year growth 12.4%. Q1 guidance slightly lower. SHW earnings miss EPS and revs 2022 guidance lowered. Google earnings miss EPS and revs year-over-year growth 12.6%. Stocks gapping up. Teva earnings beat EPS and revs in line. 2022 guidance slightly lower, but stocks moving higher here. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint. Intraday. So the first two that we're going to be looking at today, guys, going to be Tesla and Now. So let's look at these from a technical standpoint. So Tesla, obviously a little bit of a pullback to short-term EMA support, trying to create a flag. That gap extension has been filled, which is good. And it's still above most EMA support. It actually reclaimed all the EMA support. Now that I'm looking at the intraday chart in the pre-market here, so that's great. I'll get rid of some of this old lines here. Clean this up. All right, perfect. All right, so what do we got on Tesla today? So Tesla pivot to the upside is going to be this level right here, 786.97. This level is able to hold 807.08 to the 830.91 level will be tested. Unable to hold 769.39 to 742.68 on the downside. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point can hold. So if pivot point can hold, we should be able to see continuation higher. A little bit of a downtrend on Tesla. I believe it is broken. Let's take a look at that. Draw it out. Yep. So that Tesla downtrend's broken for now. We'll keep an eye on that this morning to see if it is able to hold up or not. But overall, looks like we can continue to push higher. So I'll be leaning on the bullish side of Tesla today. All right, let's take a look at Now here. So now we got a slight gap up on its earnings, 7 points, nothing crazy. Let's see where we got room to here. Still a pretty tight range, actually. It's trading within. Interesting. All right, let's take a look at this thing today. There we go. So pivot to the upside today, 430.22 levels able to hold. They got rid towards 434.67 to 441.98. Above that, 448.82. Unable to hold 424.51 to 416.08 on the downside. Overall on Now, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. So that's Tesla. That is Now. All right, let's take a look at the next two names, which are going to be Microsoft and SHW. Microsoft pivot on the upside today, 263.86. Level able to hold 269.89 to the 274.33 level will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 256.64. That level breaks, 250.13 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Microsoft, going to be leaning bullish. Looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point is able to hold. Let's take a look at this SHW. 226 per share. $225.65 pivot levels able to hold 232.55 to 240.30 will be tested. Unable to hold 220.72 to the 214.66 level on the downside. Overall on SHW, going to be leading on the bearish side today, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point is unable to hold. Daily chart's quite ugly, got quite a bit of room to the downside as well. Especially if you get below that 214.66 range. So we'll have to see what happens out the gate this morning. But yeah, it does look quite heavy. All right, so that's Microsoft. That is SHW. Let's take a look at the next two. Google, Java. All right, so Google, guys, what do we got going on here? A bit of a bounce off of the earnings. $108.09 pivot level holds 110.43 to 112.41. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 105.41 to 103.99 on the downside. Overall on Google, going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. So pivot point can hold. We got a nice amount of room for continuation to the upside within that range. Not a huge amount of room for straight shot higher, but does look good off the bottom of the range for a push back towards the top to retest the top, I should say. So that is Google. Let's take a look at Teva. So downtrend break in the short term on the daily, coming off the lows, reclaiming of short-term EMA support. So that's good. I think we're over the 50 EMA as well, which is nice. Yes, we are. Actually is quite the move. Especially for this name, it's a big move. Don't typically get that much range on earnings. 895 pivot level holds 853 above there into the 10 level. Unable to hold 831 to the 776 on the downside. Overall on Teva, be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a grind higher. Typically is a grinder name intraday. So reclaims that pivot. I think you can slowly push to the upside there. That is Google. That is Teva. Let's take a screenshot of these two. Let's move on to the next. I find it quite interesting. They're buying most of the dips on lowering of guidance on tech, as long as it's not like an absolutely brutal lowering of guidance, if it's somewhat in line, then they're all getting bought up. So clearly people want to put money back into where they think there's value on the mega cap names. Let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. Market pivoted to the upside today, 394.22. Level holds 396.07 to 398.35. Unable to hold 392.28 to 390.86 on the downside. That breaks 389.14 will be tested. Overall in the market, going to be leading on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. That is the SPY. Let's take a look at let's take a look at Apple here. Just going to pop up that. And just real quick, I'm just going to link this to the daily chart. It's always a good idea to take a look from this perspective as well as we go through. We can see on the daily chart what's happening is the market's pushing back above the 50 EMA. It currently is back above the 50 EMA. There is a flag that has occurred here as well. It held that that range, that breakout range on the daily as well. So this could be, you know, the next leg up. Of course, we do have Apple earnings tomorrow, so that's going to be a big deal in regards to the direction on the SPY, but so far it does look good for continuation. Apple, similar to the market in that you're getting a downtrend break. Of course, Apple's still above quite a bit of EMA resistance and looks, I think, better in that regard than the market as a whole. 153.32 pivot level holds. Room towards 154.99 to 156.27. Unable to hold 151.04 to 149.77 on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point is able to hold. So that is Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon. We'll get rid of that one. I can keep it. I guess it's just a misprint. Okay, so Amazon pivot 118 on the upside today, aka the 50 EMA. Get back above there. You got towards 120.53 to 123.88. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards last day's low, which is that 114.58 area to 112.66 downside. Overall on Amazon, going to be leaning bullish. We're looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point is able to hold. All right, let's take a look at Netflix. There we go. So Netflix, similar to Apple, actually, in that it's holding above most EMA support. It's acted very well after its earnings. I love that. It's had some pretty good relative strength. Didn't really pull back with the market as much as it would typically. Pivot to the upside today, 217.39 level holds 224.29 to 229.39. Unable to hold 210 34 will be tested on the downside. Overall, on Netflix going to be leading bullish. We're looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point can hold. All right, let's take a look at Meta here. That is going to be interesting. It just has acted so bad the last couple of days. 165.14 pivot levels able to hold 168.76 to 171.53. Unable to hold. We look for a pullback towards 160.53 to the 154.53 level on the downside. Overall on Meta, going to be leaning on the bearish neutral side today, looking for continuation lower if that pivot point can't hold. Still, kind of got a bearish look to it, and it hasn't showed us any sort of strength in the last couple of days, which, I think you gotta take that into account when you want to trade it. So not the best looking name. All right, let's take a look at Google. Oh, we already did Google, so we don't need to do that again. Let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM. All right, so VIX 2484 pivot levels able to hold. Got room towards 2603 to 2741, unable to hold 2356 to the 2255 level on the downside will be tested. Overall on VIX, probably going to be, well, not leaning any particular direction, but looking like you got to keep an eye on that last day low. It's right where an inverted head and shoulders is on the daily. So we got to take a look at that, keep an eye on that, see what happens in that regard. That's the VIX. Let's take a look at the QQQs and IWM. QQQ 298.31 pivot level holds 303.88 to 307.44. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback to 294.90 to 288.53 on the downside. Q's very similar look to the market, SPY that is. Not surprised. I think we should be able to push and hold this 50 MA level for continuation higher. So we've got to keep an eye on that pivot. It does and will be extremely important today for tech. So let's keep an eye on that. So that's the QQQ. And last but not least, guys, we'll take a look at the IWM here. So IWM had some great relative strength yesterday, obviously with all the small caps moving. Didn't really pull back with the market as much from a percentage standpoint. Stayed green most of the day. I believe it even closed out green. $180.30 is the pivot to the upside today. This level is able to hold 183.06 to 185.87. Will be tested. Unable to hold 177.80 to 174.90 on the downside. So overall, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a flag break, continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point can hold, which I do believe we will see. Just because we got about a minute here, guys, let's also take a look at the NVIDIA. So some very similar to the market. 170.31 pivot, levels able to hold 172.11, 175.63, unable to hold 166.01 to 163.75. You can keep an eye on that this morning. Nice little flag break setup right now. Obviously, the big thing today to keep an eye on is, well, into the close, I guess. We do have Meta and we do have Qualcomm reporting after the bell. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Anyways, guys, that's it. We'll see what happens. I'm gonna go ahead and pass over to Selpeach while I type up that pre-market action plan. We'll do a quick little recap after he's done. Selpeach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Hey guys, Fed day, huh? All right, let's see what we got going into it. All right, we got the 10-year basically unchanged down to 0.01 at 277. I think that's pretty significant, quite frankly, okay, because of a lot of reasons, but most importantly, I mean, we were up at 350, right? We're at 278. What's this guy Powell thinking? He says, okay, they don't believe me. What's the story? Are we going into a recession? What's the street thinking? And even after today's rally, where some earnings were good, the yield doesn't go up, which is kind of interesting, right? 2 10-year spread is what, 29? So right at the, top of that range that we've been looking at, 2030. I think it's pretty interesting, quite frankly. And you have, the inversion keeps getting bigger. And we'll talk about another inversion in a minute. But looking overseas in London, the 10 years at 195.0, up 0.04. Germany, it's basically the 10 years at 94, okay? Unchanged. A 10-year bond at 94 is laughable, guys, in the history of rates, okay? It's really, 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 really low, all right? So what are they telling us there? And in the face of it, you think our inflation is bad? I mean, natural gas here, where is it today? $9 or so? Let me see. I'll come back to it in a minute. Commodities. Natural gas is at $8.69. You know what the same thing costs in Europe right now? Anybody want to guess? I know you know, Beth, so don't you guess. Anybody else? $60. $60. Think about that for a minute, guys. You want to talk about negative real rates? They were just talking about it on CNBC. I didn't know either. Okay, I had no idea. All right, you want to know what negative real rates look like? Just look at the rates in Europe. For whatever the equivalent is for $9 here, Parry, I guess, I don't know how they translate it. Okay, think about that for a second. All right, and you think, and rates at 1%, it's a joke, okay? It really is. I don't know what they're gonna do, okay? I really don't. So let's finish that whole thought process, okay? Go back to it. So the bond market is basically at laughable levels. The 10-year in Japan, that every hedge fund manager is short, the 10-year is at 0.20. Now they tried to peg it at 0.25. So not only are these guys not making money, they're losing money on that trade. Think about that for a minute. That's craziness, okay? Everybody is short that thing. and everybody's getting pounded. All right, so that's that. Let's look at commodities. All right, you have oil up another $1 today. Natural gas is down 36 cents. But in the scheme of things, 8.60 for natural gas here, you may think it's high, but at the end of the day, it's really nothing considering. And we don't even have the pipelines to move it through our country, no less sell it to someone else. Freaking joke, right? All right, let's look at the dollars mixed against North America, up against the yen, flat against China, actually down 0.01, and the euro's at 101. So the euro's kind of where it's been, more or less. Crypto up a little bit, Bitcoin 2%, Ethereum's up 8%, Solana's up 5%. So these things are starting to trade a little better, but I mean 8% off of a much lower base. Solana was 250, it's 36 bucks, you know, so up 5% on 36 bucks versus up 5% on 250 bucks, quite a difference, right? And let's look at the foreign markets. Okay, so you got the FTSE up 51 points, 0.7%. DAX, FTSE's been acting fairly well, actually. DAX is up 0.62 at 80 points. Over in Asia, you got the Nikkei up 0.2%, 60 points. China's basically flat, down a tinge, and Hong Kong is down 1%. Okay. And I got a feeling this property situation over there, everything I read is really, really, really nasty. Maybe they can kick the can down the road, but you know, they got their issues over there with that. So that's the foreign markets, okay? Banks and the Fed. So you're gonna have Powell speak today. If I've told you guys once, I've told you a million times, and every time it turns out to be right. The first move in reaction to the Fed is always wrong. It happens. I don't know why. Don't ask me. I don't know. It just happens. So fold your hands, wait 10 minutes, wait for the trend, and then play the trend. It's pretty simple. All right. And that's the banks of the Fed. What is he going to do? He's going to do 75 basis points, but based on rates going down, I would think he is going to try to jawbone the market, you know, that we're going to be very aggressive. I think that's how, I don't think he's going to try to make the bond market go even lower and, you know, fuel more inflation. I don't think he's going to do that. And you're seeing reports from the likes of Visa that see no slowdown in consumer spending. He wants a slowdown in consumer spending. And the only way he's going to get it is to either raise rates a lot or scare the bejesus out of everybody. I think he's better off doing the latter. Okay. And so I think he's going to be very, I think he should be hawkish. I think he will be hawkish. The only thing is, does the market care? We'll see. Okay. It should be interesting. So that's the banks and the Fed. China. What are these guys up to? Well, you know that property thing, which we talked about. Did you know that they're building this natural gas pipeline between Russia and China? You guys know that? That's the new thing, okay? So these guys are really, really chummy for a lot of reasons. China's chummy with anybody who can help them. And so, you know, I don't blame them. And so that's what's going on with China this morning. Russia trying to put the wood to Germany even more, you know, Europe even more with these natural gas, saying they can't send more or some BS like that. You know, they're trying to flex their muscles. And, you know, we'll see. Okay. You know, they say we're going to let you ship wheat, and an hour later they built, you know, they bomb the place, the port where the wheat's going to come out of. You know, not a good situation. Okay. Crypto, we discussed. The oil market, I talked about natural gas a little more. The virus, now they're talking about the monkeypox costing the US $7 billion. That's the new thing to watch. Not so much COVID. But did you see that town that, COVID started in? I forget the name of it, in China, with an H or whatever the name is. They shut it down last night. So China continues to do what China does. And that's that, okay? So that's China, oil, virus, dollar. So there's news out this morning that a bunch of countries have started trying to dethrone the US dollar as the global currency for trade. China, Russia. Look, these guys have wanted this for a really long time. And I'll get to you guys' questions in 1 second, okay? These guys have been trying to do this for a long time. It's a huge edge for the United States that global trade takes place in dollars. So China, Russia, the BRICS, Brazil, India, South Africa, as well as Turkey and a couple of other countries, Saudi Arabia, they're looking into a different currency to trade stuff in, okay? Clearly, this red team, blue team that I've been talking about for a while is really ingrained in everything these days, okay? These guys, Russia, led by Russia and China, want to dethrone the US as what has become over the last, 100 years or what have you, 200 years, okay? And they want a new world order, and they're doing their damnedest to get there, and we'll see what happens. Whether it's Taiwan, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's food and energy as a weapon, all this stuff is what it is, okay? Mr. Market, yesterday, I think we had, basically preparations for today. Market was hit a little bit yesterday based on, some stocks, earnings and whatnot. People were afraid of the earnings coming out, high PE tech, semis, basically FANG, high beta stocks got hurt, banks got hurt, retail, of course, we saw that Walmart thing. And the safety stocks were pretty good, consumer non-durables, pharma, HMOs, okay? Let me answer you guys' questions. Is there a point where Powell and the Fed look and say action is crushing the lower class? I don't know, twins, I don't know, but clearly that's been the problem. I mean, the lower class is getting screwed like they always do, okay? The price of these things are, so what is he supposed to do to help the lower class? What would be the answer? Let inflation run rampant? That would hurt the lower class even more. So, I mean, clearly, part of the problem was he was trying to help the lower class by making sure everyone went back to their jobs, and we had full employment before he stopped the stimulus. So part of his political agenda is what got us here in the first place. I think inflation crushes the lower class more than anything else, because if, for the wealthier people, if oil is, $6 a gallon, it doesn't feel as bad as if you, are watching your pennies, or you go into the supermarket and you got no money left. So, I think inflation should be his main concern if he's concerned about the lower class. That's what I think. Okay. Where are we? The dollar, Microsoft. So what I'm seeing today, though, guys, is really interesting. You're seeing companies miss and stocks go up. That's usually, that bad news, good action is really what you want to see if you're a bull, right? And you are seeing that in a bunch of names today. Okay. So I think that's pretty important stuff. Haven't seen that in a long time. And, had these numbers come out a month ago, I don't think the reaction would have been the same. I left last night, the S&Ps were down 30 to play some golf. I came back and they were up 30, and I couldn't believe my eyes. I thought that I hit the machine to make sure I had the right contract. So, bad news, good action. We got to pay attention to that. Okay. Anything else today? Let me see. The visa thing, I think it was important. The most important thing today, I think, is that dollar. Okay, them trying to put together some kind of currency to replace the dollar as, to trade goods and services. What else? New home sales for the month, biggest drop in 2 years. That should be of no surprise to anybody. The Fed looks at this 3-month, 18-month spread, which I can't get a quote on an 18-month bond, but I use the 2-year, and it's 251 versus 306. That's the biggest drop since 1996 in the spread. And they say that's what the Fed is watching more than the 210. I've always been taught to look at the 210. They're putting this new one in play. I don't know. Maybe it gives them more leverage to lower rates even further. I mean, raise rates even further. I don't know. I'm not sure. Okay. What else do we have today? We have some numbers out. Let's see. On the positive side, you had Teva, and they agreed to a $4.6 billion settlement. That stock's up on that. ENPH monster of $21. You want to be where the government wants to throw money, and certainly solar is in that arena. Spotify's numbers weren't so fantastic, right? Stock's up a bunch, right? Chipotle was pretty good. That's up. MANH was good. Hilton had really good news. That stock's up, what, $6? Microsoft, the numbers weren't good, but the outlook was good. Nadella's just amazing. And that stock's up $9. GPC Boeing numbers weren't great, but their cash flow was better. Stock's up a Finsky on that. BYD, TMUS was good. WM was good. Texas Instruments. I mean, that's a good one to take the temperature of everything that's selling. And I think that's a positive for Texas Instruments. Stryker, APH&R. By the way, you know that Biden and Xi are speaking tomorrow, guys. I don't know what what's going to go on there, but communication is always good, right? Spotify slowing hiring, still up on that. Edit had some positive data. I told you about the monkeypox spending. On the negative side, you had Humana, but down $7 in a $485 stock is a pimple on an elephant's ass, right? So don't, get too thrown by that. Sherwin-Williams was down. Juniper, Shopify was down. Now it's turning. TENB was bad. BG was bad. Bristol looked okay to me, but it's down $1.50. So you see this one, guys? This one's kind of sort of laughable in a weird kind of way. Charter lost a $7 billion verdict because one of their employees went into the home of an elderly woman and murdered her. $7 billion. I mean, I don't know. I always thought that you figure out damages based on a bunch of factors, one of which is age and so on and so forth. Look, I think it's terrible, but $7 billion, really? 7.37 billion. I don't think there's a chance they pay 50 billion. How about that? 50 million, maybe 50 million. I don't even think that much. I think that'll be changed, but the stock's down on that. Tonight, we got a whole slew of earnings also. So today's a huge day. We got the Fed, as you know. We have earnings out. I took us here. Meta, Qualcomm, QS, Now, Etsy, Cake, Ford, Teladoc, Trox, all tonight. And prior to the opening tomorrow, we got some big ones there too. Comcast, Philip Morris, what is that? Altria, MA, MasterCard, Pfizer, Royal Caribbean, Shell Oil, Southwest Air, Tilray, don't miss again. Like that. Okay, so that's that. Today, you have these guys coming out with earnings. What I did see today, though, every day has been like 20 to 1. Reduce targets to raise targets. Today, I would think it was more like 4 to 1. So an improvement. I haven't seen that in a while. I didn't see that, Twins. Did not see that. So I think that's a step in the right direction. Elliott supposedly has a big stake in PayPal. Stocks up on that news. They're in Western Digital, and I think they're in one more name. Can anybody remember what it is? Because it's escaping me for the moment. Oh, wasn't it with a P? Pinterest, right? So they're in all three of those names, right? My son-in-law's best friend is in that division at Elliott that does all these things, and I saw him the other day, but I don't even want to know, so I didn't even talk to him. No news is good news. I don't want to be involved in that shit. But anyway, these guys are in those three names, okay? And they throw their weight around. They don't lose too often. So keep an eye on those three names. Weston Didge has been a pig. Now this PayPal will come down, okay? Just like I told you Weston Didge would, okay? They gun it on the news, then they take it lower, and you'll get a better opportunity to buy this thing, in my opinion. Okay, so that's that. I think you trade away until probably 1 o'clock, and then you wait and see what happens. Do I think the market holds here? I have no idea. I really don't. We'll see how they trade once they come out. But stocks have gotten smashed. But keep something in mind. We're exactly where we were yesterday, right? More or less. What were we down yesterday? S&Ps were down 45, so we're up 39. NASDAQ was down 220, so we're up 196. The Dow was down 228, we're up 172. So basically yesterday didn't happen, more or less, right? And we'll see what today brings. It should be an interesting day, guys. I'm going to watch for the first 20, 30 minutes like I've been doing, and it's been helpful. Excuse me. And let's have a good day. Spartan, it's all yours, man.
All right, thank you, South Beach guys. Morning, what's going on? So if you guys are new to chat, haven't already done so, make sure to click that Discord link that's emailed to you. Once you do pop into the chat, it's going to look like this. First area to go to, like I said, is the new to chat information section. Give that a read from top to bottom. We'll go over that once we close down the YouTube stream real quick. Pre-market tickers on watch, a couple different things that we're looking at today, guys. And if you guys are on the stream, you can certainly just pause the screen and give this a read. All the charts are posted, all that good stuff. All right, so what are we looking at today? Tesla, Microsoft, now SHW, Google, and Teva. Tesla gapping up and typically the market now. Earnings beat EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 26.6%. Microsoft earnings miss EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 12.4%. Q1 guidance slightly lowered, stocks gapping up. SHW earnings miss EPS and revs, 2022 guidance lowered, gapping down. Google earnings miss EPS and revs, year-over-year growth 12.6%, gapping up. Teva earnings beat EPS and rev in line, 2022 guidance slightly lower, gapping up. So you got a lot of misses and lowering of guidance, but gapping up here if they were somewhat in line. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint. First two, Tesla and now. So Tesla, guys, pivot to the upside today. It's going to be 786.67, sorry, 786.97. Levels able to hold 807.08 to 830.91. Unable to hold 769.39 to 742.68 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Tesla, going to be leaning bullish. Looking for a continuation push to the upside today if that pivot point is able to hold. Now pivot 430.22 level holds 434.67 to 441.98. Unable to hold 424.51 to 416.08 on the downside. Overall on now leaning bullish. Neutral on that. Let's take a look at the next two, Microsoft and SHW. Microsoft 256.64 pivot level holds 263.86 to 269.89. Unable to hold 250.13 to 246.54 on the downside, leaning bullish on that. SHW 225 sorry, 225.65 unable to hold 220.72 to 214.66. Able to hold 232.55 to 240.30 on the upside, leaning bearish on that name. Let's take a look at Google. Let's take a look at Teva. Google 108.09 pivot level holds 110.43 to 112.41. Unable to hold 105.41 to 103.99 on the downside, leaning bullish on that name today. And then Teva leaning bullish 895 pivot level holds 953 to 10. Unable to hold 831, 776 downside. All right, let's take a look at the spine of the FANG. SPY 394.22 pivot to the upside today. This level holds from higher into the 396.07 resistance breaks. We see the 398.35 tested. Pivot, unable to hold. Room lower into the 392.28 support. Breaks, we see the 390.86 tested. Leaning bullish. Neutral. So I think we can grind higher before the FOMC. And I think like what South Beach said, guys, gets to like 1 o'clock. We pretty much just sit on our hands and wait. So that's gonna be the SPY. Let's take a look at the rest of the FANG here. All right, Apple guys, pivot to the upside today. 153.32 levels able to hold. 154.99 to 156.27, unable to hold. 151.04 on the downside. Maybe bullish on that. Amazon pivot upside today. 118 level holds. 120.53 to 123.88, unable to hold. 114.58 to 112.66 on the downside, leading bullish on that name as well. Let's take a look at Netflix pivot upside today. 217.39 levels able to hold. We got room for continuation to 224.29 to 229.39. Unable to hold. 210.34 on the downside will be tested. Overall leaning bullish on that. Let's take a look at Meta pivot upside today. 165.14. Unable to hold. Room towards 160.53 to 154.53. Unable to hold. 168.76 to 171.53 on the upside will be tested. Overall on Meta, going to be leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push higher today. Google pivot upside 108.09. Pivot holds 110.43 to 112.41. Unable to hold. 105.41 to 103.99 downside. We already talked about this one, but we'll go over it again. Leaning bullish. Let's take a look at the VIX, Qs, and IWM. VIX guys pivot to the downside today is going to be 24.84, able to hold. 26.03, 27.41, unable to hold. 23.56, 22.55 downside. QQQs pivot to the upside today. 298.31 level holds. You got room towards 303.88 to 307.44, unable to hold. 294.90 to 288.53, and leaning bullish on that. And then last but not least, guys, IWM pivot to the upside today is going to be the 180.30 level holds. 183.06 to 185.87, unable to hold. 177.80 to 174.90 on the downside, and going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side there as well. So guys, that's the SPY, that's the FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. Let me go ahead, close down that YouTube stream. If you guys do have any questions, you go to spartantrading.com. We do these YouTube streams every single Wednesday morning, so feel free to pop in then. Otherwise, yeah, thanks for watching. All right, so once this is cut, guys, we'll talk about those pre-market, or so the new to chat information section.